Hello and welcome to day 6 and actually the final day of the RISE Pico World Summit 2025, the 12th edition of a very unique convening of thought leaders, practitioners, learners, and the spectrum in between. What is uncommon about them is the spirit to collaborate for the greater good. And what is common about them is the belief in the RISE values: responsible, inclusive, sustainable, and ecosystem friendly. The values you just saw in the video. The summit got off to a resounding start 4 days ago and has seen almost 100 sessions with just a few more to go today, co-created and co-located in multiple cities with almost the same number of partners, and over 200 experts from around the globe for a community that is now 9,000 strong from 83 countries. We hope you will stay with us this today for the last day of the programming, but the platform will still be open for another 1 week to continue to watch what has happened this whole week, this whole amazing week, because everything is still going to be on demand for you to see. And of course, welcome to this last and final plenary based on the thematics for each day. As you know, the first day had system syncing, the second was on SDGs, the third was on CSR, the fourth on ESG, and today we will be talking about DNI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, the workplace society continuum. To discuss more about this and to really take us forward in a way that perhaps is a little bit of a change from the last few plenaries that we have had, I have with me a very special person, Dr. Roslina Chai Sansan, an executive leader, coach, and facilitator, and high stakes conflict coach and mediator, but at heart, a human centered strategic innovator. Truly, truly pleased to invite Dr. Roslina on stage. You're on mute. Roslina, you're on mute.
I just want to say that I've been doing this for how many years and I still talk when I am mute.
True.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Karen. And I would like to add that what we hope is going to be special about this last session is the fact that you and I are going to be in conversation. And my role is to draw you out, and I would also love to hear some of the questions that you're going to be throwing my way, because I believe that our intention is to expand the conversation about DEI. And I love the title, Society Workplace Continuum. So if you're ready, I would like to catalyze this conversation with the first question to you. Before I ask you, what is your understanding of DEI? I would love for you to share with the audience, what are some of the highlights of your life that has contributed to your embodiment of DEI today? Because you have lived a rather mosaic life, right? Different school systems, you've lived in 4 different countries, you've been in different sectors, and you've had to pause and twist quite a few times in your life. So what are some of these highlights that you think is important for the audience to know? Oh, now you're on mute, Karen.
There you go. See, it doesn't matter how many times you do it, right? It still can happen to you. So, I mean, this is a nice twist, right? You questioning me. So, Yeah, I mean, of course, our lives mirror who we are in the workplace, right? Because what we experience in our personal lives, what we see in society around us, is what we carry to the workplace when we go there. And so, definitely in my case, because of my life as diverse it has been, I've always very, jokingly said that I have friends, white, pink, yellow, brown, black. I just now need the blue variety. And with mass traveling becoming a reality, perhaps I'll even find that, because I mean, and I've seen that no matter where you go, I mean, jokes apart, right? No matter where you go, people are the same. It stays the same, and yet there are differences, right? And when you start realizing that there are more same than differences, it's a choice you need to make. What do you really look for? And this is not just only in society, it's even in workplace, because I've been through multiple industries, and many times people ask me that, how do you do that? I mean, how can you just do 7 industries? So, yeah. And I'm like, transferable skills, right? Transferable skills. If you're open to learning all the time and you're open to connecting with people all the time, it will not take you long to establish positive environments in which you can flourish, you can strive, you can thrive. Yeah. So it is really the environment we create that allows us to do that, right? And who makes up the environment? It is us, the people, right? First, it's the people. Then comes the infrastructure and all of that. So I think I've seen that, whether it is the different countries I've lived in, whether it is the different sectors that I have worked in, or it is the different kind of people that I've had the absolute privilege to work with. I think it all translates into bringing diversity from society into the workplace and back again. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm curious, based on what you have said in terms of, we'll put aside the blue people for the moment. Um, you made a statement that we are all the same. Now, that phrase alone has been parroted a gazillion times, right? So, what do you observe is the reason why it seems like we have not been able to move beyond a performative tick box, some would say rather obviously superficial attempt at DEI, not just in the workplace in terms of corporate, right? You can say this is in the government, in any sector of society where a collective of people supposedly are supposed to come together and achieve something that only in coming together we can achieve. Like, what is the reason why we have not moved beyond that?
Well, I mean, the easy answer is the rat race, right? We are all in survival mode more often than not. We don't really think, and yesterday we had a beautiful conversation with Ondine Hogdon from Canada, who spoke about flourishing startups and the word flourishing. What does it mean? And she was saying the same thing, that the language you use in the business world, execution, right? Chopping block, right? So I think the whole race, right? The words we use itself are such that makes us think in a way of competition.
Mm-hmm.
But if we were to change our language to look at more about collaboration, right? Or I would put another twist to it and say, what are the values therefore that drive us, right? If the values is about being first, right? If the values are about, success at any cost, right? Then you're never going to look around you and say, who else is around me, right? But if you thought about it and said that if we all succeed, then we are all going to be better, then it'll change. So I think there's a need to change the language of business, firstly, right? Second is the whole infrastructure and environment and when I talk of environment, I'm not just talking about the physical environment. Yes, you can have the most fancy office, you can have the best facilities, you can have a lot of freebies that you give to your, work, to your teams and staff and employees. But ultimately, it is what is the mental models that we are creating for everyone to say that we are in it together, right? And I think that is going to have to be the next barrier, I would say almost, is what's the language? Just as we talk different languages and it becomes a barrier, I think the very business language we use today is a barrier to DNA. So
Okay.
when that changes, the tick box will stop. Yeah.
Now, speaking about language and mental model, I wonder if you think the word DEI in the order in which it is arranged is actually the right one. Should it be rearranged? I'm serious. Should it be rearranged?
So I'll tell you, we actually did a complete change of that. So in one of the Rise World Summits, in fact, was under that theme. We said it's time to change from DNI to IND, firstly. Okay. But what is that IND? It's not inclusion and diversity. It is innovation and diversity. Why? Because in that is your business case already. If I host a workshop on DNI or DI, okay, those days when we coined this term it was DI, okay? And if I did a workshop on DI, the mental mindset to come for that session was, oh my gosh, another one of those. All right, let's just go for it. We just got to finish it up. And, that's it. Or it's aggressive. It's either completely passive or it's totally aggressive. What is this nonsense DNI? I mean, why do we need all this? It's just hogwash. You really can't, and you really get participants with these two extremes. Someone who just doesn't care, they're just coming because they are forced to. Or the other one, really aggressive, saying that this is all nonsense, right? And so when we started doing workshops and calling it, innovation and diversity, even if they still had a little bit of these two negative extremes, there was just a little bit of curiosity as to what is this innovation and diversity, what is this new thing you are going to talk about, and that's enough for me to open the door and slip in a few thoughts that can help them change their mindsets. So I think definitely two things. Yes, there is a need to change the sequence, but it is also equally important to create new language that would probably help us to change mindsets and therefore hopefully lead them to change behavior as well.
Okay. Now, this might be a little bit controversial, but in my 20 over years of having founded and scaled 7 businesses and being in corporate, I firmly do not believe that we'll stick to the original DEI is suitable for every company. And it's also not suitable for every stage of a company. Very crudely, you have the concept of storm, norm, form, right? If you are young, it is critical to have cohesion. It makes no sense to talk about diversity in that stage. So if we were to follow that line of thinking, and assuming you agree, what are the extremely oversimplistic understanding of DEI you have seen that you believe is actually a roadblock to really engaging robustly and wrestling with the paradox of this intention, we'll put it this way?
So there are two parts to this, Roslina. Okay. One part is saying that why are we doing diversity? Right? Is it just because it's a nice thing to do? It's a good thing to do? Yeah, sure. That is one reason. But there is a business case and enough of research to prove that diversity has really enhanced, okay, businesses. They have come up with the most innovative products and services because there's been a diverse set of feedback, perspectives, inputs, right? Ideas. So while I would agree with you, and yes, it's very controversial to say that you don't need DNI and that it depends on the stage, I would disagree. And I'll tell you why. One, because stage is important. Yes. Okay. Or let me take the first one, actually. Okay. Do you need DNI? Yes. I'll tell you why. Because it just is about a degree. I'm not saying that, you have to go drastic and then completely turn over and change the entire, say that I have to bring in every kind of person who's different from us to bring it into our team. No. I'll give a simple example of our own. When we started 15 years ago, wow, okay, we were I actually started by saying I'm going to create a company that will be filled with women who don't want to work. Okay, because I used to feel that women, especially those who have taken a break, just don't get a chance to come back. That's one. Second is women who cannot work 9 to 5. Okay. How do you harness their kind of, intelligence and potential? So how do you do that? So I used to joke, or women who have retired, right? How do you leverage again them? So my whole thing was, of course, very women focused when I got started. And, so I would say we would be this place where those who don't want to work will come and do something. Okay. So while it was a great idea and a very nice thought, it obviously, on the long term, like to go back to your stages, does not make sense. But you can't have diversity of a different nature in some small ways. So you don't have to be taking this big jump in, because you shouldn't be doing it to show anybody else any which ways. Find your why, right? As Simon Sinek keeps telling us, right? Find your why. Why would you want to have a diverse set of people? What do you think is the gap that they would help you to fill? Help you to fill. You are not helping them. They are going to help you. If you work with that win-win mindset, you will find a way to incorporate diversity no matter which stage you are in. And therefore, you will always have diversity no matter what kind of sector you are. Because no two people are the same, right? Even that's diversity. In some way, even that's diversity.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, this world has created so many levels of diversity or barriers or differentiations, depending on how you want to talk about it. If it's not country, it is region, it's state, it's religion, it's language, it's culture. Forget it, it's my next village. Or my next block. Oh, that person belongs to that block. So we'll always find a way to find a difference. Can we always find a way to find a reason to bridge that difference? I think that's the key. Yeah.
Okay. Now, you mentioned earlier that there's a lot of research demonstrating or evidencing the business case for diversity. But let's peel that back a little, because I believe part of that research also demonstrates that there are certain conditions that need to be fulfilled if diversity is to be leveraged. And one of them is the ability to deal with conflict, to have difficult and uncomfortable conversations, right? And in Chicken Soup for the Soul, there's one tagline you wrote, which I really like: think differently, act together, right? Would you like to say more about that? How do you go from that? Because the challenge with our workplace today is that in many cases, it has become quite politicized, right? And it has also become a place, especially now with hybrid and technology, where a lot of our emotions are processed during work time, whatever that means. So the boundaries now are not that clear at all. What do you think needs to be done to navigate that in the context of conflict?
So, you are the conflict expert. You are the lawyer in the house, okay? And you are the one who has worked across multiple countries and, large corporations managing that. So it's really, I should turn that around and ask you to take that question for yourself, because, you are the expert really on it. But I'll just maybe say a small thing, and then really I would love to hear from you on this, honestly, because I can just imagine the wealth of experience that you have in this and be so valuable to all our viewers, those in the house right now and those who will be watching later. So definitely like to hear from you, but maybe I would just put it, to a very simplistic. I mean, for me, I always say, the more simple you make it, the easier it is for people to accept, right? And so I keep it down to very simple. How do you want to live? What kind of life do you want to have? I am 100% sure it's free of conflict, right? I mean, of course,
Mm.
we will have conflict. I'm not saying that, you're going to retire and, live in a cave somewhere and meditate for the rest of your life. No, you are going to live your life every day. You are going to find conflict of some kind or the other for sure, right? But within all that conflict, can you find the resilience to deal with it and as much as possible to remove it? If your attempt is to remove it, it's like the surfer, right? What does a surfer do? And this is, Shiraz Shami's positive intelligence, which I kind of really love to read about. He talks about the surfer. The surfer doesn't fight the big waves, right? He uses it, or she uses it and navigates it to go into even greater sense of achievement and satisfaction. So
Mm.
why can we not do? Yes, conflicts will come our way, but we should find ways to reduce that conflict and take it for our advantage and move ahead and find the satisfaction in able to resolve conflict of any kind. And for me, what I call that is having practical peace, and we'll talk maybe more about that later on. But yes, like I said, love to hear from you.
I will definitely answer that, but I would actually not want to lose the energy of what you're saying, which is what is practical peace? Can you just give us a little bit? I promise I will answer, but what is practical peace?
Okay. So, peace again, as a concept, is this abstract in some ways, or if it is definitive, it is associated with war or with meditation, right? I mean, yoga, it's good. Those who follow meditation, mindfulness, all that is really, really very helpful for you. On the other hand, war, definitely we need to make sure that we, resolve conflict and obviously not have that. But those are not things that happen in our everyday life, or doesn't something that touches us honestly, okay, and at every moment of life.
Yeah.
What matters to us is our every single moment of our life and what happens in it. If
Mm.
you can think about how you can reduce the negativity in your life, right? And take positive action, be positive, okay, and spread positivity, okay. I think you are actually bringing peace into your life, which is very practical. And that's why for me, it's about your everyday life. How are you able to deal? People use there are a lot of words used to kind of describe a great life: happiness, joyfulness, fulfillment, satisfaction, prosperity, right? For me, those are all temporary. None of them can ever be permanent. None. None. What can be permanent is peace. But
Mm.
peace of what kind? Practical. Has to be
Mm.
very practical. It has to be something that is, relatable for me, that I can manage in my daily life. And so for me, it's practical peace.
Okay. So I think that's actually a really nice segue into me answering your question. In terms of the moment by moment decisions in daily life that every single one of us is faced with having to make. And we either do it consciously or we do it reactively, right? So specifically in the context of DEI, it's a very loose term. Let me first set the frame by saying that diversity is a fact. It's a bit like gravity. You can deny it, but it is there. But I am not very convinced that that should be part of a tagline, because when you put the word diversity out there, you're actually amplifying differences. And when you do that without the fundamental foundation of the intention to be inclusive, we are going to be just chasing our own tail. And let's not be, what's the word? Let's not poo-poo the word intention because it sounds so simple. I know for a fact that in a lot of Buddhist practice, intentionality is the foundation of the practice. We lawyers spend years parsing intention. Intention is a difference between you getting a death sentence and just a jail term, right? So intention is a huge thing. So if you go into a conversation on DEI without the intention to be inclusive, everything else is not worth your time on. Okay. Now, equity is possibly in this context an objective. I want to be inclusive and I evidence my inclusivity with the result of equity. Now, let's not go into what that means, but just for the moment, if we have that as a loose framework of what DEI is. Now, in that context, what is the criticality of being able to think differently while acting together at the end? And that comes back to intention, but not so much inclusion. Because if you enter a conversation without the intention to be generous in how you interpret other people's action, then everything that happens to you is lensed through the assumption of threat. And when you feel threatened, every one of us know this, we are not very nice people. And we can either vomit the aggression out or we can swallow the aggression in. In both cases, it does not help to resolve a situation because when you're in that state, you are listening to prove yourself right while proving the other person wrong. When you have a conversation in a meeting with your boss, with your stakeholders, with your employees, and this is your frame of mind, DEI is impossible, right? So if there is one practical takeaway, and I don't want to go into more than that, this, I truly promise you, would change your life. If when you find yourself in a state of, I really don't like what I'm listening because what that person thinks is different from me, I feel threatened. Do you have the capacity to switch your framework and say, let me listen with curiosity to understand what they want instead of listening to prove myself right and to prove them wrong? Because, and I'm going to end here, when a conflict arises in the clash that happens in diversity, it is a golden business opportunity because when someone is in conflict, it means that there is a fundamental need they have which has not been met. So if you as a leader understand how to leverage that need beneath the conflict, you can be a very powerful influencer. Very powerful. So I'm going to stop there. And I would love to hear
I could just keep listening to you, Roslina, and I think I should actually, because I think just starting with that simple, very simple, as I said, the more simple it is, the easier it is for people to understand. Saying that diversity is about intention and equity is about the objective. I think that in itself really sets the framework so simply. To even say that, are you on the right track or not? Because if you don't have these two things in place, there's nothing that's going to work. You can put in the most, so-called well-designed DNI, program, but if the intent itself is not clear and not good, okay, and positive, then, and you are not sure what you're going to achieve out of it, your objective, it's not going to achieve anything anyway. So I'm going to ask you the question now, Roslina. That's it. I want to hear you. And I'm sure our viewers want to hear you as well more. So, one of the things that I saw in your profile, and we're sharing little by little on the chat as well with our viewers, is that you are a poet, a actress, and a culinarian. Wow. I mean, a lawyer, coach, leader, okay, facilitator, and then here, right? Again, talk about diversity within a person. So I think you're absolutely right. Why do we even use a word like diversity? All of us are diverse in some shape or form, even within ourselves, right? So how do you bring yourself? How do you kind of balance these aspects of your life, and how does that make you who you are? So yeah.
Wow, that is a bit of a boil the question ocean. Um, I don't know about the audience listening, but I will make an assumption that most of us listening grew up in an Asiatic culture where from a very young age, we are acculturated to accept what is valuable and what is not. And I think much more than let's call them a more individualistic leaning society, we who grew up immersed in the Asiatic narrative, it becomes very difficult for us to divorce what is our voice and what is not ours. I'm not suggesting that that is good or bad, but that amalgamation. So when you grow up with this narrative that only certain aspects of your entire being is necessary to show up because it advances the collective well-being, you lose touch with the others. And for some of us, we lose touch to the extent that we don't even hear the whispers of the poet, of the singer, right? So the first question is, do you, somewhere within you, have a desire? Because it is a voice that doesn't really go away. It becomes just softer and softer. And I know for a fact that many people, they are moments in their life where that voice is invited forth, but then they kind of squash it down. Because you can't talk about amalgamation if there is not even a recognition that there is this part of you that desires expression in the form that only you can give it. So that's the first work that has to be done. The second work, and back to our question about conflict, are the different parts of you in conflict with one another? And for most of us, at different phases, especially, and I love the way you wrote in the book, in the pause and twist threshold of life, is in conflict. And we need to make certain decisions of how we want to resolve or integrate those different parts. Now, assuming that can be done, and I'm going to end here, there is also the acceptance that much as we wish we live in a multiverse where we can be multiple things at different times, we are somehow bound by linear time. So in different seasons of your life, different parts of yourself are more flourishing, whereas others are more dormant. And we have to learn to discern and to be patient and to be okay with that. So that for me has been a continuous journey of trying to understand what it means in this context of diversity and inclusion, right? And here I want to throw back a question to you, but I also wonder, I think you and I would love to invite questions from the attendees, and if they do, please drop them into the chat. What does it mean to be diverse and inclusive and to achieve equity in the context of a society that is so complex? How have you experienced it?
So, I mean, and I'm going to turn it back again to you for this for sure, is that, you said the word good and bad. For
Mm-hmm.
me, the simplest way to incorporate diversity or to kind of now actually I've begun to feel, why are we using the word diverse? We are all different any which ways. Thank you. You've already made me feel that. Why am I using the word diverse? Um, I think one of the ways of dealing with situation is always to accept that, or differences. Let me put difference. Instead of the word diversity, I think I want to use the word difference, right? That different is not good or bad. It's different. For one is that distinction I want to make. The other distinction I want to make is that nothing in life is black and white. I mean, you're a lawyer. Okay, I'm sure you can give us tons of examples of how something at one stage looked absolutely black and white, okay, and then has got completely changed because, you know, whatever maybe the facts that come to a light in the case, right? And that's what I keep telling everybody. Life is full of only gray spaces. There are very few instances in life where you can categorically say it is black and this is why, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I think that's the first step towards accepting, okay, what is going to be happening. Second part is again the words that you use, discernment. The problem is we are not discerning people. We are judgmental people.
Yes.
We always approach either us, we judge ourselves firstly, we judge others, and then we judge the situation. And I go back again to Shirzad's positive intelligence in that, if we understand the difference between judgment and discernment, you know, we will be able to handle any situation life throws us or the workplace throws us, okay, and can navigate it like the surfer, right? But we don't do that. Our
Mm-hmm.
instinctive reaction, like you said, that reactive mode, right, is to judge, label it, and then fight it. But if we were to be discerning and say, okay, there's an issue here, and that requires maybe some additional thought process or work to be done on it, you're not labeling it at all. You're keeping it as a question mark, in fact. And because it's a question mark, that makes me remember one thing. I would ask all our viewers to take this, do this exercise. All right. When you tell someone, do this, okay, look, and you have a question mark, anything you might ask a person to do, just change. I mean, you put this thing that do this, right? It's a full stop, and change that full stop now to a question mark. Do this. It is as simple as that. When you judge, you're putting a full stop. When you discern, you're putting a question mark.
Mm-hmm.
Same, two words, such a simple thing, right? Two words. Do this. It's a full stop. It's a demand. It's a command. Do this. It's a question. It's collaborative. It's open. It's
Mm-hmm.
as simple as that. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, like I said, two things that you said, and I'm going to turn it back over to you to maybe say some more on that aspect. But this is what I feel, that we need to stop being judgmental. We need to be more discerning, for sure. And we need to accept that life is full of grays. And so the more we are open to understanding situations and people and ourselves, the better we will get at not being judgmental. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Listening to you, and I think the most urgent and resonant sharing I wish to put on the table for everybody's consideration. This might be a little bit left field, and if we can have a bit of a bird's eye view from the balcony, nothing that we have said, and if you want to try and implement it, is going to work unless you slow down time and you make time. We in the modern society, the malaise of our time is the conviction we have imposed upon ourselves that we are time starved. This time poverty is emaciating us at so many levels. You can only learn how to discern until you get to the Yoda level, right? You need time, like the Matrix scene. You need to find a way to slow things down and to create that pause that Viktor Frankl talks about between a stimulus and your reaction is this pause. The more masterful you become in creating that pause, right? In a moment is an eternity. You will be mastering your life. So anything that you learn in this life, if you don't create that pause, it will not take root in your being. And when you can become someone at a level of being, every response you make to an external stimulus will be potent because it comes from the essence of your being. That, I hope, is an exciting invitation.
Oh my gosh, that is so profound. And, I am going to take that with me because I am constantly, and I said this in another session that, I think I'm this queen of multitasking because I'm just always so starved of time. But I'm going to take this advice, honestly. And I hope many of our viewers here are going to take this advice because it's so, so, so important. I think practicing the pause, as they say, but the way you put it just now, Roslina, it just reinforces that multifold, that how it is affecting our lives, how it is really destroying ourselves in some level, right? As you said. So I think, thank you so much, really, for sharing that, for prodding us, nudging us, driving us to think harder and deeper before we can do anything so that we practice the pause before that. So thank you very much. I can't imagine we've already running out of time. It is like incredible, right? We could just go on like this for sure. So I think,
But hey, Karen, a last word from you on the topic. Like, what is the invitation you would like to put out there for everyone listening?
um, wow. I think for me, I keep going back to, of course, what is most important to us and what is the Rise Peak World Summit based on is the values, right? If we can just, because all of us have different sets of values. I mean, it depends. It's generational. It is gender. It is region. It's history. All of these affect the way we think and value what we have. So for me, creating a minimum value system on which you can, share with others, understand each other, could really be that minimum platform and foundation we need to bring people together and help them to work. So for me, it's the rise values. If people can understand what they mean, and if you saw the video when we got started, how it starts from me, it has to start from me always, right? But how it starts from me to thinking about you, to thinking about all of us together, and then finally thinking of ours, right? The entire universe. I think if we can take that journey of kind of just bringing those values into ourselves, it's the bare minimum. Nobody can say, I don't want to be responsible. Nobody can live without thinking about other people because they're dependent on other people, right? So if you're dependent on others, you should think about others as well. No one can think about not the long term because we have to survive. I mean, that's the basic need that we need, right? We have to survive. So thinking long term. And last but not the least, thinking of the entire ecosystem, thinking about everything that is around us because everything matters. So the more we are conscious, more we are mindful of what is around us, I think being responsible, inclusive, sustainable, and ecosystem friendly would be my invitation to my viewers. Thank you.
In listening to you, and I hope that this is an inspiration for all. It doesn't quite come from me. There is this framing that each and every one of us is a drop of water within which is contained the ocean, but we are all a drop of water without which the world would thirst. So don't undervalue the potency of what you can do, because society is just a concept. We are society, right? Within us.
Absolutely. So, Roslina, I'm so glad you spoke about the drop. I've not heard that before, but that's fantastic. It's beautiful. But, we actually, if you see the Rise Pico World Summit logo, it's actually a mosaic. Okay, it's not a complete form. It's a mosaic of dots. And I tell everybody that every dot in that mosaic is you, right? Every dot is valuable. If it was not there, there would be something missing. That image would not be complete without that dot, no matter how small, right? And so I think, I mean, similar to what you said, I think each one of us contributes, each one of us has an impact, and sometimes, unfortunately, a negative impact, unintended impact. And so if we're not mindful, we're not conscious, we're not discerning, we will definitely not take the rightful place that we have in this world. So it's an invitation to take that place at the table and in this mosaic that we have created at the Rise Pico World Summit. So thank you very much. Really such a wonderful, wonderful conversation. And I must also wish again a very happy Chinese New Year to you and to all our viewers out there. I hope you all had a wonderful, wonderful time and, of course, a wonderful year ahead. So with that, we come to the end of our plenary, but I do want to remind all our viewers really quickly that we will be having the closing plenary today at 5:30 p.m. IST, Indian Standard Time, and I hope you will accordingly block it in your calendars, no matter which part of the world you are in. And of course, there is still programming to go. There's a whole day of programming. There's wonderful things happening. I must tell you all that there's a full day of physical events happening in Bangalore, where they're actually going to have a fashion show. They're going to have workshops. They're going to have exhibitions. They're going to have, I mean, there's just so much that's happening over there. Please, anyone who's in the Bengaluru region area, please go drop in and find out more about what's happening and join us. And of course, check this thing. We have Moving with Maya, who's done a wonderful job. I mean, has done some amazing sessions with us before as well. So check them out. There is, Joseph Iscaria, who's with us. So there is fantastic. And we have Bohemian Adventures. I must mention this. Since we're talking about diversity, we must mention that they actually organize, expeditions with people with disability. It's not only for them, it is both neurodiverse. And they are now doing a trek to the Everest Base Camp. So I mean, amazing. And I think she also did one to Mount Kilimanjaro, she planned one. I think please check out Bohemian Adventures, an amazing organization that truly, truly is an example, shining example of what DNI can achieve if we have the right intent, as Roslina told us, and you have the objective. And her objectives are really high, literally, not just. So
Yes.
again, an invitation to join us at the closing plenary, where we'll be having the Rise Awards, and we have three amazing people who will be awarded today. I'm not going to tell you what, you have to join us to know, but global citizens, not just right from here as well as across the world. So join us, and we look forward to seeing you soon.